So I made a video recently about why I support Yang's UBI plan, and I said how I have this plan about how we can help combat homelessness. There are a lot of organizations and programs out there that are for the homeless, and there's some really good ones. You see them, like tiny house communities and things like that. And actually, the tiny house community is probably the closest thing to my actual idea. I mean, but I want to rebuild neighborhoods, and I want to help the homeless while rebuilding these neighborhoods. And my plan is that, we have a fund. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll set up a GoFundMe. GoFundMes are difficult now, though, because there's so many scams out there, and everybody's worried about doing anything with a GoFundMe because you see all these scams and stuff. But we would start with a fund that is actually funded by people making donations. It's not going to be funded by taxpayers. We just start with the donations, and we get money in this fund. We build this fund up, and then we go into neighborhoods. It would probably be, a city like Detroit, you could buy property in, you could still get the homes, that are livable or could easily be livable, because there's 18 million, yeah, 18 million homes that are vacant in this country, and that's 5 or 6 homes for every homeless person in the country. So it's not like the homes aren't out there. And if we went and we found homes that have been empty for 1 to 2 years, possibly 3 years, depending on what kind of climate they're in, even 4 years in some cases, we'd be able to go into these decimated neighborhoods that have been destroyed by plants closing down or Walmart coming in and chasing out all of the small business, and then them close it. They decide, oh, we're going to close our doors now because, we chased out all the business, so nobody can afford to shop here anymore, so we're going to close our doors too. Case like that maybe. But we go into these neighborhoods and we buy these homes from the banks. And a lot of these homes, the reality is a lot of these homes, you can get them for anywhere between 20 and 30,000. 25,000 is the average, but you can get them as little as 20,000. Depending on where you are, you can get them for even less than that. If it's, in small town rural America, there's some cases where you can get them, as little as 15,000. And when you're talking about the city, maybe 35,000. But 25,000 is about the middle range where you can get these homes that are ready to be lived in, because they've been not lived in for a while. They might need paint and things like that. Some might need a little bit of restorative work, but they're easily repaired. So we start buying the homes. And in the beginning, it's going to be more expensive because you're going to have contractors and their crews doing the work, obviously. But when you're talking about buying homes in a neighborhood and you're working in that one neighborhood and rebuilding that whole neighborhood, especially a neighborhood where the neighborhood's pretty much completely abandoned, then you're bringing in the homeless. Once you have 5 or 6 of these homes done and you have people living in them, the homeless people living in these homes, especially if you're starting out with the most able-bodied homeless first. It sounds kind of cruel to go that way, but if you think about the way that it would work, that would be the best way to go. And then you could start, as the homes are being built, then you can start bringing in the more desperately, less abled. But you would probably need to start with, 5, 6, maybe 7 homes where you'd want the most able-bodied homeless people you can find first. Because then it would have, it would be like with the homes being restored, we do like Habitat of Humanity does, but that would be their first job. When they come off the streets, their first job would be working on these sites. It might be something as simple as picking up garbage on the job sites. Some of them, they're going to have where they're more in depth, and but even as they go through, I mean, they're going to wind up where they're going to find that what they can do and what they can't do on the job site, and they're going to be put to better use and being trained to do more and more. I mean, in some cases, you might have somebody who's homeless and they're going to be able to, they're going to be really smart and they're going to be able to go through an electrical apprenticeship through rebuilding these homes, working with the contractor. And the good thing about that is that, they're not only just getting job training, but they're getting a trade training, and they're also getting work references. Because like let's say they do this, and they're working on these houses, but they don't really want to do it. But if they, you get people that are willing to work, they're going to stick to it. And the good thing about them sticking to it is that, in 5 or 6 months, as the neighborhood's being built up and, small mom and pop businesses are coming in, they can go and they can try to get a job at one of these small mom and pop job places. Or, they get on their feet, they get a car, they do the things they're supposed to do. They can go get a job somewhere else, but they have a job that they're working now. So they have a job reference. They're not long-term and unemployed anymore. They actually have a current job and they have a reference. And so, it's just building them up. It's building up their self-esteem. It's building up their independence, and it's building up their self-reliance. So I mean, it has just that one aspect of it alone, just psychologically, is empowering. I mean, that's one of the best things you could do for a homeless person after you get them in a home. Really, the home is the best thing you can do for a homeless person. But then after that, you need to do something for them so that they can stay in the home. And so you have it going, through this job program. Also, there would be counseling. We would definitely have a counseling program. And the counselors would be all volunteer counselors, And the great thing about that is in the beginning, yeah, we're going to need people that, pastors, ministers, social workers, people like that are willing to volunteer for counseling. But eventually, the people who came up off the streets are going to be able to be counselors even. They're going to be able to help people get through everything. There's going to be some specialized counseling where we're definitely going to need, real certified counselors, especially for drug addiction and alcohol addiction, things like that. But, as we build these neighborhoods, the neighborhood's going to start building itself. We're going to keep, we keep bringing and fixing up these houses and bringing in homeless people, and they get on their feet and they're going through the counseling program. And if we have something like the UBI going through, which I understand everybody's skepticism with the UBI, but if we have honest people in Washington, D.C. that aren't sabotaging bills just so that they can say, look, I was right, then we can make UBI work. Because UBI, this whole program, in a lot of ways, this program would hinge on UBI. And then you have these people, everybody, and as we get the homeless off the street and these neighborhoods are being built and these jobs are coming in and small mom and pop businesses are coming in, and eventually, you're going to have companies like Walmart and such wanting to come in. And there's no, we'll make sure, one of the things that we'll make sure is that, that the towns that we do this with, that they're not going to allow what has happened to small business happen again. I mean, Walmart is more than welcome to go with, let them know if you go, yeah, let Walmart come in, but don't give Walmart these subsidies that you did, because I'm completely anti-subsidy. I believe in a fair. We all have the same right to fail and succeed. And when you're telling the mom and pop business they have to pay all their taxes, but then you're telling Walmart, oh yeah, we're going to pay your taxes for you and put it on the backs of the mom and pops and the taxpayers in town, that's how we wind up where we are today. That's a big part of where we are, why we are where we are today, because the mom and pop businesses were destroyed by these subsidies, because the subsidies were a big part of the problem. And the other side of that coin is that a lot of these companies that are getting all these subsidies and they have no tax liabilities, they're keeping their employees paid just below the poverty line. So what happens when they're paid at just below the poverty line? They're getting food stamps and they're getting welfare and they're getting this and they're getting that. And in a lot of cases, who's benefiting the most off of this? The same corporations that are getting the subsidies. In the cases of food stamps, number one retailer in the country is really raking it in, because taxpayers are subsidizing the cost of their employees, and then they're making money off of their employees being subsidized, while they themselves as a company are being subsidized by the taxpayers. So they're getting double. The taxpayers are getting double whammied by the number one retailer in the United States. And other retailers too, but that one really raking it in. They are. You know who I'm talking about. And then, as this really takes hold and it really starts rolling, eventually it's going to be the same program is going to be great for low income housing. So here, we started out with getting the homeless off the street and making a job creation program. And the whole thing turned into a welfare reform program, because as they got on their feet and everything, the welfare books are starting to roll backwards now. And as the welfare books are rolling backwards and you have less and less people on welfare, you have less and less cost to welfare. So by de facto, it's actually a welfare reform program as well, because our modern day welfare program, as given to us by President Johnson, is not designed to ever get anybody off of welfare. The reason the stories are so heartwarming when you hear about somebody beating and getting out of the welfare trap is because it's a welfare trap. That's the reason why these stories are so heartwarming, because they're not common when people get out of that system. It's not common. But then we can use it and we keep going, and then we use it to start bringing in low income housing, because we know there's a need for low income housing. And so then, instead of the single mom whose husband died over fighting for what he believes is the right thing for this country, dies in a war, and she's got to take care of her children, and she's got to work 3 part-time jobs to be able to take care of her children and pay her Obamacare tax and pay her car insurance and pay, all their needs. We can turn it into a low income housing program down the line, when we really start getting to the point where it has actually, we can see where we've brought down numbers of homelessness. Eventually it would happen. It's going to happen eventually if we do it. It's going to eventually start shrinking the numbers of homelessness. And because mom and pop businesses are going to come into these neighborhoods, it's going to start creating tax revenue. And if we have a UBI program where the average guy that, maybe like managers, retail managers, they like, man, I could really do something if I could just make enough money to save money to start a business. If we have the UBI, they're going to be able to put the money from their UBI away and save it. Or someone might say, well, I'm just going to save up my UBI and I'm going to buy one of these houses, So in 2 years, they could buy a $25,000 house like the ones that I've described. And then they become a taxpayer, a local taxpayer, and they become a homeowner. And, it's just, but it's all about rebuilding the program. I mean, rebuilding the neighborhoods. And so it's something where a program like what I'm talking about and a program like Yang's UBI in tandem would really, it's not a burden on the country. It's not a burden on taxpayers. It's actually a rebuilding of the whole American economy. It's a rebuilding of communities. It's a rebuilding of the small business model. It's a rebuilding of Main Street. It's a rebuilding of independence. It's a rebuilding of self-reliance. It's positives after positives after positives. And it's not hard. The hard part is getting honest people in government to allow something like the UBI be implemented the right way. Obviously, when you have a bunch of corrupt politicians like we have now in Washington, D.C., there are no honest politicians in Washington, D.C. If we can get honest politicians in Washington, D.C., that aren't going to go behind closed doors and say, hey, you got Rubio and Pelosi. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, hey, how's the kids? Yeah, they're real. Yeah, they make it look like they're enemies, but behind closed doors, damn well they're all buddy, because they gotta make it. It's a reality show, is all it is. So we need to get honest people in Washington D.C. to fix that. My program, I would definitely want my program designed to keep as little government as possible involved in it. That's why one of the big things would be not funding it through taxpayer dollars as far as the homes we're buying. I would definitely want to fund it through donations. And then even the homes, when, like I said, my idea is that for 6 months, the people that we bring in, they don't pay any rent at all. For 6 months, they pay no rent. And then after 6 months, we start charging them rent. Maybe it'd be something as small as $50 a month. It'd be a low amount for the first month. And then every second or third month, we raise it another $50. So it'd be $50 to $75 to $100. And maybe we cap the rent out at $500 or so. Inside the cities, we might have to work with a bit of a higher number, but we still want to keep it down as low as possible, because it's just the cost of being in the city is more than the cost of being out in the country or rural small town America. It's just the nature of it. It's just property in cities are just more expensive. But we keep them, and like I said, it's just all around, and especially the counseling. There would definitely be the counseling program, and we would definitely make one of the houses that we buy and that we redo. It's not going to be set up for somebody to live in. It's actually going to be set up with offices in it for the counseling program. Any neighborhood that we start this in, one of the first houses will definitely be all set up with just offices in it. And like I said, we'll have volunteers. And it's a smart plan. And I know there's other plans out there that actually do try to tackle homelessness, but they're not about neighborhood rebuilding. They're not about rebuilding a neighborhood from the ground up. They're about just trying to help the homeless, where my program is about trying to help the homeless too, but it's about letting the homeless be part of something so that while they're getting back on their feet, they're also rebuilding their own personal self-esteem, and they can see the good that they're doing. And it's about self-healing of themselves. I mean, just being part of something like that is just a healing in itself. I mean, a lot of programs mean well, but they just, by design, the way that they attack the problem, it doesn't really, it's, there are cases, yeah, they help a lot of people, but there's a lot of people that fall through the cracks just because of the designs of different programs. And this program is meant for people not to fall through the cracks because, like I said, it's, in the beginning, it's going to be about just helping the homeless, but eventually it's going to become a low income housing program. And with Yang's UBI, that only reinforces it. So it really is. I really think it's a great idea. And I think, if we got more people together to put these pieces, I mean, I got the pieces, I know how to put them all together. I just got to find the people that know how to bring in the people for them pieces. I mean, I'm not rich. And that's another thing. I don't want somebody rich involved in this because it's hard to find rich people that it's hard to find influential rich people that aren't greedy. There's not a lot of Richard Bransons in the world. I mean, if that's my dream. I want to be like Richard Branson. I mean, I do. I want to be rich someday, but I want to be like Richard Branson. I want to be, one of the noble rich people. I don't want to be like Trump or like Hillary Clinton or like Nancy Pelosi or like Boehner or, I don't want to be like the greedy, evil rich people. I don't want to be Amazon. I don't want to be Walmart. I want to be Richard Branson. Really, that's who I want to be. I want to be Richard Branson. I really look up to Richard Branson. Richard Branson is one of my modern day heroes. Howard Hughes is one of my real life heroes too. There's different reasons for that though with Howard Hughes. You have to watch Flight of the Navigator to understand. Me and Howard Hughes have a lot in common. But yeah, it really is. And it's just hard for me to explain it on this kind of a format. I mean, it's easier for me when I start explaining it, and then as people are asking questions, and I can answer the questions, and that keeps me steering right. My mind works really fast, and it's always running through different things, and it wants to keep saying, "Oh, well, wait," and then here's what we do with this, and then I keep getting, because my mind just works really fast. I'm a problem solver, but the problem with being a problem solver is it keeps looking through. I keep looking at all the different points, and I keep jumping around the points, and it's hard for me to explain it on a format like this. I mean, I should probably just try to start a conversation like this on my Periscope app. And if I could actually get people to come on the Periscope and talk with me and ask questions, I could definitely explain this a lot better. Because people could ask the questions and I can give them the answers, but trying to think of the questions that people want to ask is hard for me because my mind is racing around through all the different points of it. Because like I said, I'm a problem solver. That's one of the things that made me really good in loss prevention. I was a problem solver. But it's a good, honest program, and it's not meant to, it really is, it's not meant to hold anyone back. This is meant to make people move forward. And like I said, I definitely want to make sure that it's all set up to help everybody get on their feet and help them get their independence and help them be able to prosper and help them be able to get that self-reliance and that you don't want them over prideful, but you need a certain amount of pride. You need pride. There is such a thing as too much pride. Again, Trump, Pelosi, Clinton, Weinstein. But yeah,